Welcome to the Total Country Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Total Country Podcast. My name's Kevin Angel and thanks for joining me today. My guest today is the brilliant Olivia Lane. But first, if you're new to the podcast, firstly, thanks for joining me. And perhaps after this one, you'd like to take a look back at some previous editions. The Total Country Podcast is a weekly show and previous guests include the likes of Kaylee Hammock, the Adelaides, Hayley and Michaels, Jessica Lynn, Willie Jones, Carl Daniel, Danny McMahon, Jade Hellowell and many, many more. And we've got some fantastic artists in the coming week as well. So if you like what you hear in this episode, please do go and check out the others. So, as I said, my guest today is Olivia Lane. Olivia hails from Houston, Texas, but has spent much of her working life across LA and Nashville. Growing up in a musical household, Olivia has always had music around her, and her mum, who was a Texan country singer, encouraged Olivia to find her voice. After many years of writing and performing, Olivia's life took a change for the worse when she suffered mental health issues, particularly anxiety. Her single Living Instead documents this time and won Olivia legions of new fans. Off the back of this single, she decided to create a podcast, and a rather good one it is as well. Her most recent single, Nothing Changes, is out now, and as we've come to expect from Olivia, is another slice of honest three calls on the truth country. She's got a brilliant voice, can write a cracking lyric, and as you'll hear, is a lovely person. So here we go, my sit down with Olivia Lane. So I am joined by Olivia Lane. Hello, how are you? How are things?
I'm so wonderful, as good as things can be in the middle of a pandemic, I suppose.
So let's get that question out of the way. How have things been? How's quarantine been treating you?
Quarantine hasn't been too bad. I don't know if lucky is the right word, but I ended up getting COVID like right as everything shut down. I actually got diagnosed with it in March. Which is really bizarre. Me and my producer and my videographer all got it at the same time, and those were the people that I was hanging out with. Yeah. So we had no idea who gave it to who. But I was pretty down for the count those first 2 weeks of the stay-at-home order. And then I got this crazy idea to do a podcast. That's the thing that I do. I try to keep myself busy because I'm not good when I'm bored. So it's been fun, really.
You might be the only person who's describes getting COVID as lucky.
Right? Well, it's so interesting because I go out now to the store and I think there's a little bit of a feeling of like, okay, well, I've had it, so I'm good. But then also they don't know if you can get it again. Yeah. And I'm like, I definitely don't want to get it again because it was not fun at all.
I can imagine. So let's talk about the podcast then, because as I was saying before we start recording, I've never spoke to anyone else, especially in country, that's got a podcast. So why and how did you start finding the guests? Because you've got some crazy guests on there.
Yeah. So I have a song called Living Instead, which was the first song I came out with during this quarantine. So I came out with Same Old Story, and then Living Instead was my next single this year. And it just kind of seems like the right progression of, what this song is all about. Trying to get yourself back in the moment and getting yourself out of your head, because all of us, I think, deal with stress and anxiety. And sometimes it's really, really hard to get yourself out of those bad thinking patterns and back into the moment of your life. And I was thinking, one, I was bored during quarantine. So that was sort of the driving factor. But two, I said to myself, I love so many people in this industry and there's so much wisdom to go around, and really what we have are people's stories to share. And I also am just really wanting to connect with people right now. So maybe I just hit up my friends in the industry and ask them how they're doing, one, and two, what are the struggles they've gone through in this industry and how did they get themselves out of it? Because the last 2 years of my life, before all this new music started coming out, I started to lose my voice, and my life got turned completely upside down. I had to go back to therapy. I had to go to rehab for my voice. I had to go to speech therapy. I did pretty much every therapy under the sun. And I had this idea to interview all the people that helped me along the way. So I interviewed my vocal coach, I interviewed my trainer, I interviewed my stylist, all these people who were very instrumental in holding my hand during this process where I had to heal myself. And it turned into interviewing artists and interviewing people in the industry. And now it's just this really cool thing.
Yeah, you mentioned, obviously the topics are quite heavy, but it's very positive and uplifting in the same way, isn't it? Was that important to you, that it was something that you didn't have to, obviously they're heavy topics, but you didn't need to properly sit down, like an easier listen than perhaps than it could be?
Yeah. One thing I realized in therapy is that I really crave deep, intimate relationships with people. Like I go from, hi, my name's Olivia Lane to let's talk about your deepest fear. Like and I know that that's not healthy. It's a relationship that I'm so lucky and fortunate enough to have with my fans, because when they listen to my music, they know a deep, intimate part of me. And I realized that wasn't actually healthy for my real life.
Yeah.
So I had to recognize that part of myself and heal that and fix that and be aware of that. And I tell people therapy is just a lot of self-awareness work. It's like, oh, I'm this way? Cool. Now I know why I'm getting upset about it when I'm in conversation with someone and they don't feel the same way.
Yeah.
But I wanted the podcast to be more than just give me the inside of the industry. It's like, no, you see the inside of the industry through your own lens, through your own viewpoint. You have your own world and your own traumas and obstacles you've had to go through to get where you are. And I think, again, just back to sharing your story, it's the most powerful thing we have, to listen to a story and say, you know what, maybe I won't make that mistake because that person already did.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite episode or one that you recorded? Mine's got to be the Mickey Guyton one, but just because I think she's incredible.
She's amazing. Oh man, that's really hard. I haven't really thought about it. I think one of my favorite episodes is with my vocal coach Chanel, because she, oh my goodness, probably half of the vocal sessions I had with her ended up being therapy sessions where I just cried because I was mad at myself. I was mad at the world. I was mad at my songwriter skills. I was mad at myself. And I listened back to all my vocal lessons, and she was such a gentle human being during that time, during my time of brokenness. And she's become a dear friend to me. And I listened to that podcast and it reminds me how much stronger I've become.
Good answer. So let's go back a bit. For those who are perhaps new to you or have only heard one of your songs, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into music and songwriting.
Yeah. Well, pretty much from the time I was born, I like to be the center of attention. So I think that's where it all started. But I started doing theater when I was super young, probably about kindergarten or first grade. And then I was pretty much a working actor when I was in elementary school in Houston. I was doing commercials, and I just really loved being a part of something. I loved being a part of sets, and I loved being a part of like bigger productions of musicals, because I wasn't any good at sports. I didn't really like school, but I knew I was good at singing and being the center of attention. At a young age, that's all you need to roll with, right? And that turned into, at 16, I just felt like I needed to move to Los Angeles and pursue acting and music. And I saw Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez and these girls moving from Texas to Los Angeles. And I was like, that's the Mecca. That's where I get to do everything. So I begged my parents for 6 months, and then they finally said yes, because they knew I was super serious and I wouldn't be happy in Houston anymore. And so my mom went with me, my dad went back and forth. And then I went to college out there, and I had a pretty big shift and awakening to, I don't think acting is my calling. I think music is my calling, because I took a songwriting class.
Yeah.
in college, and I took that for the last 3 years. And then I started spending my summers in Nashville during college, getting internships. And it was just a big confirmation for me, because I think in LA, I learned a lot about what I didn't like. And I think that's just as important sometimes as learning what you do like what your passions are and what you do want to do with your life. And yeah, my mom was also pretty instrumental too, because she was a singer. So she always saw this little baby artist, and she really took my hand and gave me every CD I ever wanted. And I was so blessed that I was able to do every dance class I wanted and every theater class I wanted. So kudos to my parents for supporting me, because it's hard to support a dreamer.
Yeah. So you've done something that some country artists have done, but more and more are doing, which is actively research the country scene in the UK. And then you put a tour together off of it, didn't you? So what made you decide to come over and do that?
Yeah. So in January, that was my second tour.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy I was able to like squeeze in a tour before basically the world shut down. Yeah, so me and my manager at the time, we noticed that my song "You Got Me" was doing super well in London. And being an independent artist, you kind of got to be scrappy. You got to I don't have an agent, I don't have a label, I don't have any of that stuff. So you have to sort of dream and come up with your ideas on your own. And I had heard that country music was kind of exploding over in the UK, and we just had a conversation about it. And she threw out the idea, let's go to the UK. Like your song is doing so well over there. You might have fans there. Let's try and figure it out. So our first tour was just calling venues. It was straight up just like, can we come play? What's going on? Let's figure something out. And then the stars all aligned this next year during the Americana Fest. We had a couple people come see me at the Bluebird Cafe.
Yeah.
And they were such gracious human beings. And the next day they were like, let's put a tour together for you in the UK. And I was like, yeah. And yeah, it really just started with me and my manager logging on and saying my song was doing well in the UK, and then just going for it, just trying to figure it out.
And what did you think of the UK audiences? Because you've been some places that a lot of acts, when they come over, don't go.
I love every single minute of it, every single second. I love coming over to the UK. You have no idea. It's just, there's something different about the way people listen to music over there versus America.
Yeah.
They listen. Like it, I just remember the first time being over there, being on stage. I think I was in Manchester, and I mean, you could hear a pin drop. It was like, this is wild. This is everything you ever want as an artist, for people to listen. But then you get in your own head and you're like, wait a minute, are they actually having fun? Like, I don't, because everybody in America is like, sell beer and you're here to make them have a good time and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's definitely room for that. But as an artist, like, your soul food is just when people want to listen to every lyric like you do, So I feel like in the UK, they geek out about lyrics.
Everyone says that. That's exactly the same answer for me.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because people feel like it's a social thing where people are like, be proper, be quiet. Like, I don't know if it's that, or like if it's a mixture, maybe people just genuinely love, it's just a different culture. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's talk about your appearance on Songland, which is the NBC show. Now, we don't have that over here, but you can see it on the internet magically.
Magically.
Talk to me about your appearance on there and what that was like.
Yeah, that was such a fun experience. I just remember it was so strange to me being on those sets, because for so long in LA, when I lived there for 6 years, I tried so hard through the acting sphere to get on those sets, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I had to go to Nashville for basically 6 to 7 years to get back on those sets. So it was a really big confirmation for me that I was supposed to be doing what I was doing, that I was supposed to be in Nashville, being a songwriter, doing the thing. And the opportunity of Songland was amazing simply because of the songwriters on the show. Like we would stay up hours on set just waiting to film, because that's what a film set is. You basically just wait around forever until your part comes around. And the song, like every day when we were done filming, all the songwriters are staying at one hotel in Burbank. And we all would just drink at the bar and talk about our lives and our journeys. And it was so organic and so lovely. And I think really only first seasons can do that. It starts to get very Hollywood. And it was really cool to just be a part of, because everybody on the set was even trying to figure stuff out. So it was just, for me, it was confirmation. And it was a really great experience to make more fans.
Good. Yeah. No.
And I learned so much from Esther. She's a hit songwriter. I mean, I learned so much from her.
So let's talk about your newest single, Nothing Changes, which is such a good song. Why did you choose that for your next single, and talk to me about the story behind it?
Yeah, I love this song too. It's very near and dear to my heart. So I wrote the song with Matt Nolan, who's my producer as well, and then Kat Higgins. She's a lovely human. And we actually wrote this song quite a while ago. And I don't know why, but it just fell, I don't know, you write so many songs that you can't keep up sometimes. Yeah. And it just wasn't right for my EP that came out. So I wrote it when I was writing for my last EP, and it just didn't fit. And then we were diving back into my old catalog, and my publisher actually was like, hey, do you remember this song? And I was like, oh yeah, I love that song. She was like, no, this is a really good song. And it just rose to the top. I don't know. I think a good song, when it's meant for you as an artist, will show itself and reveal itself. And that one was so clear. It just fit so well. The message was so on brand. You know, because you always have to go through the checklist of like, is this on brand? Is this me? Is this my voice right now? And it was. And we recorded it, and there's just some sort of magic between the lyrics and the melody and the chords. And Matt really knocked it out of the park on the production. And it was in the bed of songs, like the 5 songs I was going to choose for my next single. And after coming out with Living Instead and seeing where the world was at, I was like, Nothing Changes is such a perfect song for right now, because the world is in the world. I mean, we've never been in any kind of time like this. I mean, I was with my grandparents the other day, and they're just like, this is uncharted territory in our 80s. And a lot of us are having to do a lot of deep reflection. A lot of us are stuck with our thoughts right now during quarantine, and it's not fun. It's scary, and we're meant to have distraction as humans, I think. But a lot of us are making changes right now in our lives. Yeah. And at some point, you either look inward and you make a change, or you just keep living this life that you might be unhappy in, that might have, been brought to light during this time of reflection. So I think all of us go through these seasons where you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm in charge of my own destiny. I'm my own hero. So nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah. Do you mentioned there's been a time of a lot of self-reflection and things. Do you think that's changed the way you've wrote during this time, or what you've written about?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, for sure. I wrote a song the other day by myself, which I don't really write by myself a lot. Because for me, when I write by myself, it almost has to be like word vomit. It has to I don't know. I don't do well sitting with like for 3 hours by myself. No way. Never have. I've never been good at it. But that song, I wrote a song called I Let the Devil in My House Today. And I wrote it, and it was so cleansing for my soul. But then I was just like, this is so weird. Like, I don't know if this song would have come out had I not been in a quarantine state of mind. So everything right now is influencing me. And I think I'm just very sensitive right now because I have so much time with myself.
Yeah.
And my thoughts.
Good answer. Now, you're quite the entrepreneur as well, aren't you? I love to talk about the business side of things. You've got your merch, you've got your sort of your music, you've got the podcast. What's next? Are you looking to add new bows from there?
I'm actually writing a book.
Oh, okay. Fiction,
yeah,
fiction?
I literally cannot sit still. It's been a problem for basically my whole life. But yeah, so I'm in the middle of a book. I'm re-releasing a deluxe version of my EP, The One, and I'm going to make that into an album and release some acoustic versions that I've never released before. Coming out with a Christmas song. Oh, goodness, there's just a lot going on. And then hopefully planning another UK tour.
Do you have more hours in the day than everyone else?
Honestly, I get home and I'm just like, how do I have time to watch Netflix right now? But I do purposefully give myself time to relax, because that is another thing I realized during quarantine, is that I'm not very good at relaxing. And I find value in working and almost overworking, and that's unhealthy. So my drive is great. I just need to make sure that I put it in parks. Yeah. Put it in parks sometimes.
So I'm conscious of the time, but I end all interviews on the same two questions. Most people there's one of three answers for all of these, so we'll see how we get on. So if you could have one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would be really great fried chicken.
Okay.
Mashed potatoes, and just the best, like a selection of just really soft, amazing bread and butter.
I love it when people do a whole plate. I was expecting pizza or pasta.
No, we got to go all the way.
And one drink.
That's really tough, but I just really love ice water.
Such a US answer.
I know. It's so US.
No UK people say that. None.
Cold ice water, man, after just a long day. I'm such a geek when it comes to water. Literally, I drink 4 of these a day.
There you go.
Thing is as big as my head.
What about if you're going out or treating yourself?
Okay. Let's go adult beverage. I think a really good margarita, a craft margarita, no syrup, handshaken, handmade margarita.
That's the complete other scale of water.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a fruity cocktail girl.
Hopefully we'll see you in the UK, as soon as possible then.
Yes, as soon as possible.
And plenty to be listening out for. So busy time for Olivia Lane.
Yes, there will be hopefully I'll have a new album out in the new year before I come over to the UK. So that'll be fun.
Mass sing along, if we're even allowed to speak.
Right.
In the room. Olivia, thanks so much for coming on. It's been incredible.
You.
Perfect. Thank you. Olivia Lane there. What a lovely person. Love her. Fun fact, I have a puppy. She's 11 weeks old currently, and during that recording, she decided to invade the room and start chewing stuff. I think it was my microphone lead. So I had to do something I've never done before. I asked Olivia if we can stop so I can move the puppy into another room. Slightly embarrassing, but Olivia did say she was the cutest puppy she's ever seen when I had to put her in front of the Zoom call. Slightly embarrassing, but she loved it. Olivia's new single, Nothing Changes, is out now on all the streaming platforms, and do go check out her podcast, Living Instead, as well. If you do like this podcast, please do like, subscribe, rate, review it, all that good stuff. It really does help massively. You can find the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and the show is on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, all using the handle Total Country Pod. If you want to contact the show, please drop an email to totalcountrypod@gmail.com. My guest next time is still up in the air at the time of recording. I haven't quite decided who we're going to go with yet, so do keep an eye on the socials to see who's next. But that's it. Until next time, I've been Kevin. You've been great. Thanks for listening. Keep it country. Bye for now.